Welcome back. In this lecture, we will learn to create delta tables. If you already learned Spark, possibly you already learned how to create delta tables. But in this lecture, let's formally see how many ways we can create delta table and learn some commonly used approaches for creating delta table. So let's start. Let me go to my Databricks workspace, and in my home directory I have set up a notebook to give you a demo on this. So let me go to my notebook and let me attach a cluster so I can run my notebook. As usual with all our notebooks, we have first line for doing the cleanup. So let me run the cleanup code. So if there are any experiments or something I have set up, we are able to clean that up. And we have a clean environment to start our learning. Then we have a setup step. For this step, we will be setting up few things for exercises in the same notebook. So here is the setup code for this notebook or for this chapter. You can run the setup, but before running the setup, ensure you have dataset underscore ch7 setup at the mount point. So in the earlier lectures, we already mounted this location, right? So we want to use that mounted location for our raw data access or for course data. So make sure that you download this chapter's data or download this folder from your project resources or from your course resources and upload it at the mount point before executing this setup. So let me do that. I'll go to my storage account in the Azure cloud, come to containers, and this is the container that we created in earlier lecture. We already mounted it in this workspace in the earlier lecture. Now let me upload the chapter 7 dataset here. So I'll simply drag and drop it here and hit the upload button, and once upload is done, we will see a success message. Okay, so I have dataset underscore ch7. I downloaded it from course resources and uploaded that in the dbfs container, which is mounted as MNT files in my Databricks workspace, and I have 3 sample data files which we will be using for this chapter. So now we are ready to run the setup. So let me execute the setup. Hopefully it will run without any error. So what we are doing in this setup are simple things. I have defined a variable base dir at MNT files. I'm creating a catalog, dev catalog. Then I'm creating a database in the dev catalog. Then I have this schema for flight time dataset, and all I'm doing is creating a data frame, reading data from JSON format file with this schema where date format is this, and I'm loading it from the mounted directory, which is my base directory, dataset ch7, and this is the file name that I'm loading. And that's why if you are following along, it is necessary to upload this dataset in your mounted directory. So don't forget to do that. So now we are ready with the setup. We wanted to learn how to create delta tables. That's what we wanted to learn in this lecture. So there are many ways to create delta table, but in particular we use 3 approaches. I'll explain you 3 approaches. The first approach is super simple. Use create table DDL statement and you can create delta table. So let me show you an example here. I'll simply type the create table DDL statement here. My notebook is a Python notebook, so maybe I'll have to change the cell language to SQL and create table, let's say if not exist, and then I want to create this table in the DemoDB database, which is in dev catalog. So dev catalog.demodb dot table name, let's call it flight time TBL, and then we define a parenthesis, and inside that parenthesis we can define our column names. So let's say FL date is the first column name. What is the data type? Let's say it is date, and then I can define a list of all the columns. So in the interest of time, I'll simply copy paste rest of the column names from an existing screen, and this is how it looks, right? So this is a create table DDL statement. Create table, if not exist, table name is this, all these column names and their data types, I defined it. What type of table it will be? Will it be delta table, or it will be a Parquet table, or it's going to be a JSON table? In Databricks, default file format is delta. So this will become a delta table. What it means? The data created for this table will be stored in delta table format. Alternatively, you can write using and specify delta here, and that's all. If you use using delta at the end, you are making sure that it is delta table. Otherwise, this is default in Databricks, so it's not mandatory. If you wanted to create a Parquet file or JSON file, maybe you can call it JSON, using JSON, and then you are specifying store my data for this table in JSON file format. But we wanted to make sure it is delta. So that's how we can create a delta table. Let me run it and make sure it is created. Okay, so table is created. So this is one approach how you can create delta tables. What is the second approach? Second approach is to use your data frame APIs. So let me show you a simple. Let's look at this code. This is a data frame flight time DF, which I have defined here by loading my sample data from the flight time JSON file. On that flight time DF, I'm using write, and format is delta. That's all. Mode, I'm using append mode and writing it as save as table. And save as table is a powerful method in the data frame. What it does, it will look for the table. If the table already exists, it will load data into the table. Means it will save data into the table. If table does not already exist, it will create the table and then save the data into the table. So for creating new table, what it will do, it will look at the format, and format is delta, so it will create a delta table. So this approach is also an approach for creating delta table using an existing data frame. But when you use this approach for creating a delta table, you are not defining a schema explicitly for this data frame or for this table. Schema is taken from the data frame schema. All the column names and data types, all the definition for the schema is taken from the data frame, and this table will be created with that schema. But if table already exists, then we will simply load the data frame data into the table. So let me run this. For this example, it will simply load data into the delta table. So we are loading data into the delta table. Table we already created using DDL. And this is preferred approach. use DDL for creating delta tables, and then maybe you can load data into those tables later. Idea is to make sure that you are creating delta table with a well-defined schema as you desired. If you use data frame to create a new delta table, it might be possible that you didn't look at the data frame schema, and by mistake or for some reason you created a delta table using the data frame, and you didn't create a table with the desired data types, desired column types. So to avoid those things, we always write a setup script for our projects to create all the desired tables. So that's how you can create delta table or load data into the table. Once data is there in the table, maybe you can simply query the table and you should be able to see the data. So here it is. The query is running. We loaded data. So I can see the data here, right? There is one more approach for creating delta table. Uh, that is called delta table API or delta lake APIs. We don't use that approach very often, but we have another set of APIs, Python APIs for creating delta tables. We call them delta table builder APIs. So let me show you how to use it. We have to import the delta table object. So let me do it from delta import delta table, and this is the object which we can use to create our delta tables using uh, delta lake APIs or delta table builder APIs. So let me put a parenthesis here. I'll write my code inside this, and we start with the delta table and then dot, and then maybe you have create or replace method, and this method takes a Spark session as a parameter, and then the create or replace is for create or replace table. So because this is a table builder API, it is a delta table. Create or replace means it is going to create or replace a table. And then in the next step you can give table name, and in this method you pass the table name. What is the table name? We can use something like this. Your catalog name dot database name dot table name, and once you define the table name, then you can start using add column to define your table structure. So first method in the first parameter in the add column is like your column name, and second one is data type, date. You defined one column, then come and define another column. Like that we will define all the columns. So for simplicity, let's copy the code from another screen. I'll simply copy it in the interest of time. So that's how you define your delta table builder API for creating a new delta table. That's another approach. We don't use it too often, but you have an alternative. Once you are done defining all these columns, maybe you can use execute method to run this. So if I run this, what will happen? Delta table builder API will create or replace this table. We already had a table, but now I'm running create or replace, so it will replace the existing table. Earlier we had data in that table, so select statement returns some value. But now I did a create or replace, so data should be lost. Let me see. No record. So, but table does exist, right? You can um, describe this table, and you will see that table does exist. That's all for this lecture. We learned 2-3 approaches for creating delta table, how to create delta tables. See you in the next lecture. Keep learning and keep growing.